Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Sacred Beast deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck that can summon out the Sacred Beast monsters, which are extremely nostalgic cards and come out absolutely massive. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scripted in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Raveel, Lord of Phantasms. This card is a definite 2-of in the deck that has a really cool ability that each time your opponent normal summons a monster, you get to special summon a Phantasm token that's a Fiend Dark level 1, 1000 attack, and 1000 defense, but it cannot declare an attack, which is not that big of a deal because it's just going to generate tokens on your side of the field that you can use for link summoning, or for Raveel's other effect that once per turn, you can tribute a monster and this card gains attack equal to the treated monster's original attack until the end of this turn, which is a cool effect to make this card absolutely massive if 4000 attack points wasn't already enough. We then play a single copy of Raveel, Lord of Phantasms, Simmering Scraper. This card is a great hand trap in this deck. It has a really cool ability that quick effect, you can discard this card and target a Raveel, Lord of Phantasms that you control, and for the rest of this turn, its attack becomes double its current attack. Also, it can attack all monsters that your opponent controls once each, which is going to help you OTK your opponent like crazy, which is really amazing about this card. It also has a really cool ability if it's in your graveyard. You can tribute a monster and add this card back to your hand, so you can tribute one of the tokens that your copy of Raveel generates to be able to get this card back. We then play 2 copies of Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder. This card is an amazing 2-of in the build that has a really cool ability that basically you can send 3 face-up continuous spells that you control to the graveyard to be able to special summon this card from your hand. And if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent, which is a great ability. And while this card is in face-up defense position, monsters that your opponent controls cannot target monsters for attacks, except this one with 4000 defense points, which is crazy powerful, especially since a lot of our other monsters in this deck have low attack points. So this card is really good in this deck to be able to throw in a defense position to protect your other cards. We then play a single copy of Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames. We just play this card as a 1-of in the build, so we can use our copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction to be able to summon our copies of Armatile. So this card is just a really good 1-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. This card is one of the best normal summons in the entire build. This card does everything for the deck and a card you always want to see in your opening hand, because when this card is normal summoned, you can add a Uriah, Haman, or Raveel, or a card that specifically lists any of those cards in text from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a great effect because this card pretty much searches anything in the deck, which is amazing. It also has the ability that during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summoner set, which is a great ability for this card to have because you can search out your copies of Chaos Summoning Beast, which we play as a 3-of in this build. This card is really cool because you can tribute this card to special summon a Uriah, Haman, or a Raveel from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions, which is the main way we usually summon them out to our side of the field, because just by getting to this card, you can then get to this card, and then you can summon out any of your Sacred Beasts that you have in your hand, which is really cool. It also has the ability that you can banish this card from your graveyard to add Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to use to instantly get to our field spell. We then play a single copy of Dark Summoning Beast. Just a single copy of this card is fine. You don't need any more than a single copy in this build, because it is a level 5 that you do have to tribute summon, and it is a really good card, but 1 is just enough. It lets you tribute this card to special summon a Uriah, Haman, or a Raveel from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. The monsters that you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn, which is a big downside about this card. You can also banish this card from your graveyard to add a Uriah, Haman, or Raveel from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to use, but I feel like 1 is totally fine because we can search it from our deck off the copy of Dark Beckoning Beast. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a fantastic hand trap, just stopping your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Droll Lockbird. Droll Lockbird is really good at stopping your opponent from searching for the rest of the turn, which is just an amazing thing about this card. It slows down the game so we can OTK. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is a really good one of the deck to get the exact card you need in the graveyard when you need it. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good as a one of in the build, just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play a single copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. This is the fusion spell we're going to be using to go in for our copy of Armatal, and has a great ability that you can banish from your hand, field, and or graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on a Phantasm fusion monster. Then you special summon that fusion monster from your extract, ignoring its summoning conditions. And you take no battle damage from attacks involving the monster special summoned by this effect. And if you control a Uriah of Lord of Searing Flames, Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, or a Raviel, Lord of Phantasms, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, which is really cool about this card because it makes it super easy to protect your copy of Armatal and get him out on the field. We then play 2 copies of Cerulean Skyfire. This card is really cool as a 2-of in the build, and I absolutely love this card because to special summon a copy of Haman using its own procedures, you can also use face down spells you control, not only just continuous spells, which is really cool. It also has the ability once per turn, when you control a copy of Haman in attack position, you can negate any spell or trap card activated by your opponent and then change Haman to defense position, which is a great effect for this card to have. And if face up Uriah, Haman, or Raviel that you control leaves the field, you take no damage this turn, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card. We then play 2 copies of Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise is insanely powerful as a 2-of in the deck, especially since we can get to it with our copy of our Chaos Beast. And this card is great because it has the ability your opponent cannot target Uriah, Haman, Raviel, or Armatal in your monster zone with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And then while you control any of them, if you control any of them on your side of the field, you can draw 2 cards every single turn, which is amazing. That this field spell is basically Pot of Greed and also protects all of your sacred beasts, which is super cool. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactical Talents. Triple Tactical Talents is a definite 2-of in the build, because if your opponent does hand trap you, you can either draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster to OTK them with, or look at your opponent's hand to get rid of other hand traps that they might have, or see what they're playing, which is just really good. This card is really cool as a 2-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of the Map. Map is insane as a 3-of in the deck, because at the start of your main phase 1, you add a monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but half your life points, which is not that big of a deal because it helps you get to your copy of your Dark Beckoning Beast. And this card is just really good in the deck, but you kind of have to activate this card like Pot of Extravagance. It has to be the first card that you activate, but you cannot activate the monster effect until you normal summon that monster, which is not that big of a deal because you're always going to normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast because it's the best normal summon in the build. We then play 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. Opening of the Spirit Gates is a definite 3-of in the build, because when this card is activated, you can add a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or a monster that specifically lists any of those cards in its text from your deck to your hand, and once per turn, you can discard 1 card to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard, and once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, basically one of your sacred beasts, you can add a continuous spell from your graveyard back to your hand, which is a really cool effect to be able to grab your copy of Cerulean Skyfire. I love that about this card, and it's just super good that this card is basically the Rhoda for your deck, and also helps you get to the exact cards that you need, which is just amazing about this card. This card is absolutely broken. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Hyperblaze. Hyperblaze is really good in this deck because this card is actually your copy of Uriah's attack. The cool thing about this deck is you have a spell card with Cerulean Skyfire that is your copy of Haman's attack, Hyperblaze is Uriah's attack, and Simmering Scraper is Raviel's attack, which is cool that they basically turned all of their attacks into a card that helps you summon them, which is just super cool. But this card is great as a 1-of in the build, just in case you put your copy of Uriah on your side of the field, but it's a great card in this deck to be able to use. We then play 2 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beast. This card is crazy powerful as a 2-of because it has the ability that this card gains the effects based on the number of the sacred beasts that you control on your side of the field. If you control 1, each time your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you gain life points. equal the attack of that monster, helping you out in time. If you have 2, you negate the activated effects of monsters that your opponent controls, being a skill drain. And if you control 3, any monster sent to their opponent's graveyard is banished instead. And once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, you can add a continuous trap from your graveyard to your hand, helping you get back your copy of Hyper Blaze. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is just a really good hand trap to go along with their copies of Droll and Ash, and it's really good because this deck has so much free space to be able to do that. And I love that you can play like 9 hand traps in this deck, and it doesn't even like breathe hard, which is just really good about this deck. It's amazing in this build to be able to just put the copies of the hand traps in here, especially Infinite Impermanence, to be able to just set this card to your side of the field, knock down entire columns of spells and traps, and also negate your opponent's monster effects. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with a single copy of Armityle, the Chaos Phantasm, Phantom of Fury. This card is crazy powerful, and you actually give this card to your opponent, which is hilarious. It does require all 3 of the Sacred Beasts to make this card, and this card becomes Armityle, the Chaos Phantasm, while on the field. And once per turn, during your main phase, you give control of this card to your opponent, which is really cool because it does just hand this card to your opponent, which it's really good when it does. Because once per turn, during the end phase, if this card's controller was changed, you banish all cards that you control. Then the owner of this card special summons an Armityle, the Chaos Phantasm, from their extract, ignoring its summoning condition. So basically what you do is you summon this card first, give it to your opponent, and when you do give this card to your opponent, it banishes all the cards during the end phase, and then it summons out the original Armityle to your side of the field because you are the original owner of this card, which is just super cool, making this card absolutely crazy and opening it up so you can OTK. We then play a single copy of the original Armityle. This card is good as a 1-of in the deck because it can go up to 10,000 attack points and has a crazy powerful effect, cannot be destroyed by battle, and this card gains 10,000 attack points during your turn only. So if this goes off and you banish all your opponent's cards, this is going to OTK because you just swing in for 10k, which is hilarious. We then play a single copy of Gustav Max. Gustav Max does 2,000 burn damage, which is why we play it, and all of our Sacred Beast monsters are level 10, so you can make this extremely easily. We play a single copy of Juggernaut Leap. Juggernaut Leap is very easy to make in this deck over your copy of your Gustav Max to give you more OTK potential and to be able to make Zeus on top of these cards. Speaking of Zeus, we do play the Spider Engine in the form of number 35, which this card can help out a lot because all monsters you control gain attack and defense equal difference between your life points and your opponent's life points, which can be quite a lot when you have your copy of Awakening of the Sacred Beast, letting you gain life points every time your opponent puts a monster on the field if you control a Sacred Beast. So this card can actually make you gain a lot of life points to be able to like get really big monsters on the field. And then you can make your copy of number 84 Pain Gainer on top of it, and then you can step into your copy of number 77, giving you a bunch of material Zeus, which is just really cool about this card. This card also comes out at 4k because this deck is all about summoning out 4k monsters, which is just really cool. You make your copy of number 35 first, and then you overlay your number 84 and then number 77 on top of it, which is really good. And when you do summon out your copy of Zeus, usually it'll have like 5 materials if you do it this way, which is really cool. But I do like playing all of these in the deck because it's cool to rank them up just in the copy of the 7 Sin, which is just great, a great card. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is great because you can make this card over Juggernaut Leap or your copy of number 77, which is just super cool about this card. I really like that about this card. I'll actually have 2 for this card, which will be 2, 3, 4, 5 right there, which is really cool. I love that about the Zeus because it just gets so many materials, because I'll have 2 from the initial number 35, then I'll have 3, 4, 5 materials on it, which is just great about this card. It helps out a lot in this particular deck because it just gives you so many materials under your copy of Zeus, and I love that about Zeus in this deck. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is really good at popping cards on the field, and this card is great in the deck to be able to just pop additional cards on the field, and it's really actually quite easy to summon in this deck. We then play a single copy of Unicorn. Unicorn spin stuff, which is great. Phoenix to pop spells and traps. IP to be able to make Unicorn during the opponent's turn. This card is crazy. Pentastag is a card that I go to all the time in this deck because this card gives the monster it points to piercing damage, which is hilarious to use with your copy of Raviel when you have Simmering Scraper to drop so it can attack everything, and it doubles the attack points of Raviel, and this does piercing damage, which is just really funny to be able to do because your copy of Raviel will go in for 8k in into every single monster with piercing damage. So even if you put them in defense, you're still taking the damage. We then play a single copy of Linkuriboh, because we do play level 1s in the deck, so you can make this card. And then finally a single copy of Alamirage. Alamirage is great as a 1-of in the deck to be able to link away a monster that you normal summon, like your copy of your Chaos Summoning Beast, which is usually what I link away for, because it gets it off the field so you can get its effect to be able to grab Fallen Paradise from deck, which is just amazing. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Sacred Beast before, you should definitely give this deck a try, because it's really fun to be able to play, and it's just a crazy powerful deck, especially with the amount of hand traps you can mix into this deck, and being able to summon out 4k attack point monsters just over and over again is just super cool. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and there's become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.